Elmo, I think we could dispatch you to the Middle East. Maybe you could solve some problems there.
Really? Where's the Middle East?
The art of puppetry is a very unique one. It requires the careful manipulation of inanimate objects to make them seem lifelike beyond mere human imagination. For those in the profession, complete mastery can only follow years of vigorous training and performances, with such displays of talent drawing enthusiasts from far and wide.
You want to start us off? Sure, okay. Where is, don't do it, your other, no, hand, no, what, don't do that. Why not? Because you know, I know, yeah, and I don't agree with it, I know. But it's how it is, yeah.
Unsurprisingly, many of these enthusiasts congregate online to create communities out of their passions. And in 2017, a small-time South Carolina girl by the name of Cierra Green set up a TikTok account to be a part of it, while also posting about her personal life and hobbies. Sounds pretty unremarkable, but there was one small catch. The videos she posted were profusely unhinged, and the relationships that she formed with willing, and more often than not, unwilling individuals would eventually garner her notoriety all over the internet, culminating in 2025 with her complete disappearance from the internet amongst a flurry of allegations of inappropriate behavior. With all of this coming together to beckon the question, what happens when the line between person and puppet becomes blurred? I'm Turkey Tom, and this is Iciera the Furry. Early records of Iciera's time online are patchy. Her early TikTok and YouTube accounts were both removed from the platform, and she wouldn't become the subject of the internet's attention until around 2021. Her background similarly isn't too available, but in a few older videos, she has shared some of the more unique sides of herself. She's in her 20s, she's 5'1", she's taken, she's asexual, she claims to be autistic, and she was a child of fetal alcohol syndrome, or FAS for short.
Children afflicted with FAS generally lack social skills too. They tend to get easily frustrated, thereby throwing temper tantrums very often. They exhibit symptoms of being overactive and are not able to sit in a place.
FAS is the most serious manifestation of a spectrum of disorders that arise from alcohol intake during pregnancy. There are many symptoms that can present in children with this condition, but in this video, Cierra highlights the more behavioral aspects, and it wasn't too hard to see exactly why. From the start, Cierra's uploads probably drew raised eyebrows from those who discovered her content. Such content would often entail poorly timed lip syncs, some very weird choreographed dance routines, and trippy editing that really didn't possess any real purpose.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You think you can survive?
There was something very primitive about Cierra's videos. This was clearly a person who understood how to operate technology and how to create content, but at the same time possessed no actual grasp on why creators make the artistic choices that they do. However, the strangeness doesn't stop there. In fact, it's just the start, as Cierra's interests in how she expressed them went a little further than the average TikToker.
I want to kiss you so hard that you will never get the taste of me out of your mouth.
One of Cierra's primary passions was puppetry, which is a pretty harmless hobby for all intents and purposes, or so you would think, because Cierra's intent behind her interest in puppets often went beyond the merely platonic. Although she wasn't an expert in the field, she definitely knew how to make her subjects appear absolutely terrified.
Wait, don't go, hold up. I just need 1 minute of your time. If you're a furry, and if you'd like, could you be friends with me? That's all I'm asking, please.
And Cierra was also a furry, who would regularly equip herself with paper ears and dinosaur masks to express herself to her audience. These often included videos where she would emulate traits of animals, which I suppose is somewhat normal for those in the furry community, but it really isn't too normal for many other people.
Yo, Pudgy, how you feel about people saying you sound like Yoshi?
We're still not quite done yet though, because given that she informed the world of her fetal alcohol syndrome, you can probably come to the reasonable conclusion that Iciera is terminally online. For her, this meant sharing practically every single aspect of her life with TikTok, including her friendships and relationships, which she handled with even greater levels of instability. She often sought out camaraderie with other men, who she would encounter on TikTok and cozy up to until they let her into their life. The honorary position that many of the people in her circle were given given was that of the brother. Contrary to popular belief, this is not because they are blood relatives. Instead, it seems to be a reference to the fact that she would view you as someone who was always going to be there for her, which is a pretty demanding expectation. The problem was that she really didn't have much to offer in return to these people. So many of them ended up distancing themselves from her because she was just too much to handle, which would then cause her to crash out and ask what she did wrong. She would often tag these former friends and hope that sharing her story with confused onlookers would somehow feel like an authentic means of self-expression and woo them back to her. Unfortunately for Cierra, in practically every scenario, this did not work out.
Because ever since she accepted me as her internet brother, she has done nothing but ping me non-stop, almost daily to weekly to monthly for 2 years. So I kindly asked her to stop pinging me so much. And she would always bring up a bunch of excuses like how much she wants to express her love and saying that her disability was the problem even though it wasn't. I want to move on from this, but she still doesn't.
Her overly clingy nature, combined with her strange personality, made it hard for her to keep any of the people that she wanted the attention of in her life, often pushing them away. This meant that for the first of her few years on TikTok, she mostly existed in her own little world, attracting a little bit of attention, but nothing that would make her remotely memorable. However, that was all about to change, as Cierra was about to go mainstream. You see, Cierra would run through multiple men before settling on someone who didn't seem particularly understanding of her advances, but at the same time, he didn't try to actively push her away like others had.
Is mayonnaise an instrument?
No, Patrick, mayonnaise is not an instrument.
This is Mitterman the Puppet Man, or Gregory. Like many of the other gentlemen that Cierra took an interest in, he is autistic. It probably won't come as a surprise to you to find out that he is also a puppet enthusiast, and he even has his own puppet by the name of Stan. However, unbeknownst to Gregory, soon he would have an even bigger Stan to deal with.
Boo, I'm a spooky ghost.
You don't sound that scary.
You want to say that again?
Given their shared interest in puppets, Mitterman first encountered Cierra around the late 2010s, even doing duets with her a few times on TikTok.
I wanna dance with somebody. Of course I love him. He's the cutest puppet in the world. Somebody who loves me. Yes, I love him too. I'm his favorite and he's my favorite.
Cierra appeared to be equally interested in Greg as she was in his puppet, even staging some sort of romantic imposition onto both. However, when Cierra perhaps came to her senses and realized that the puppet wasn't real, she turned to the man behind him. It's hard to say when Cierra's crush developed into a full-blown romantic engagement, but according to our furry friend, they officially entered a relationship in 2020, with Cierra and Mitterman sharing romantic TikToks and projecting their loving relationship online for the world to see, even creating her own TikTok family where Stan is the son, which definitely has implications when you consider she tried to date him too. But if you paid closer attention, you'd probably realize that this was a bit one-sided.
Looking fun today.
However, it didn't seem like Gregory was actively trying to distance himself from Cierra. He even tagged her in his TikToks from time to time. On one of Greg's own uploads, someone tagged Iciera asking if this was her man, and Greg replied stating, "I am her man," which provides confirmation that he was at least aware of the relationship and seemed to want to be in it. Greg also posted a Valentine's Day tribute on behalf of Stan, which seemed to demonstrate some romantic interest in Cierra. However, as her TikTok surrounding this relationship only intensified, with Cierra even sharing DMs with the world to show they were in a relationship, Greg began to take a step back. This was because after years of posting, his girlfriend was finally attracting attention for her eclectic expressions of insanity, which Greg was beginning to feel the effects of.
I'm back!
Now, Cierra could have managed this by decreasing the volume of her own posts and giving him her attention instead, but that would have been too sensible. Greg would ask if they could return to being friends in light of all of this attention, but Cierra just said no.
I know you don't want me to leave, but it's time to move on.
Okay, babe, I have a question for you. Since you've been doing all these TikTok videos, can you please give me attention, please?
Cierra Green was the type of creator that drew people in because they were completely bewildered by the content that she uploaded. Even if we set aside the unhinged partner posting, there was material that would make you question whether this person was even real.
So you think my ears are crappy? Well, get this. At least I made mine instead of having to spend my own money on a pair of ears.
By 2021, she was beginning to develop this strange cult following of fan pages, some of them being outwardly ironic and others blurring the line a little.
I beat this thing up, now stop, and let your homeboy hit it.
The viewers had discovered a treasure trove with Cierra Green, a person so lacking in self-awareness, yet also being so willing to put practically all of that ignorance on display, even the parts that people probably wouldn't want to see. It seemed virtually beyond belief that a person like this actually existed, and when they peeled back the onion, they only found more layers to pick apart.
They stink?
Yes. No.
One of the most common targets was her political stances, which landed her in hot water pretty immediately, especially given the communities that she identified with. One of her more public spats was with the LGBT community. Despite the fact that she herself identified as an asexual furry, it seems that the thought of same-sex marriage was one step too far for her, as she very eloquently declared it weird.
I don't support LGBTQ because it's wrong and very weird. Seeing people with all those flags hanging on the wall, gay, trans, whatever, it's just not right, dude. Everybody needs to be equal. Everyone needs to be in their own way. I was born straight and I am proud to be straight. These people just choose to be who they really want to be. They're not born that way. They can't be born that way.
To be fair to her, she is from a small town in South Carolina, and those communities tend to trend more conservative than the rest of the country. But what's more interesting to me is that her position seemed at odds with how she understood herself. And eventually, after persistent arguments with the community, which seemed to point out this contradiction, she changed her mind and decided she was no longer homophobic. In spite of all of this happening, allegations surrounding her character continued to offer themselves up on a silver platter. And because Cierra had a very visceral reaction to being compared to homophobes, racists, or the baby, it only encouraged people to persist further.
Who is the baby? Because I do not look nothing like whoever that person is.
I'm done. I'm so done. I'm done.
Given how obsessive she was over trying to control those in her life, and even the narrative surrounding her, it seemed strange that she possessed practically no self-control whatsoever.
Will you please?
She would attempt to adapt to this newfound fame, but this would only serve to aggravate the relationship with her audience.
You might be wondering why I'm pretty pissed off right now. Yeah. When I say my ears aren't for sale, I didn't mean just go and make your own ears.
One of these ventures was a Discord server where people could meet with fellow Iciera fans. But as soon as it was launched, it was swamped by trolls and raiders who swarmed the server to unleash hell. And Iciera herself was the pinnacle of incompetence when it came to actually being in charge of anything. Although it's unknown what exactly caused it, given the many dramas she had started in the span of a few months, her TikTok account would be suspended in mid-June, causing the content train to come to a screeching halt.
Monster, I feel creatures lie here, looking through the window.
It appeared that Iciera hadn't taken the news well either, as reports began to make the rounds suggesting that she had tragically died shortly after. And because there were some websites that made the same claim, as well as a few articles, and the fact there was radio silence since her ban, which for everyone who knew her seemed pretty out of character, tributes began to flood in from those who mourned her, and the content that she had blessed the TikTok platform with. Even if it was ironic, Cierra Green had managed to cultivate an ardent following from her content. She had given audiences priceless comedy, political commentary, and romance. It was like a story unfolding in front of our eyes, and like the Shakespeare of our time, it appeared to have ended in tragedy. However, in the ashes, something was stirring, something that said she wasn't quite finished yet. Although, by the end of this video, you might wish she had. It turns out that Iciera was very much alive, and that she had plenty more plans for her public profile. But her main problem over the next few years was a power struggle with TikTok to establish herself as an online presence again, with many of her rebooted TikTok accounts being deleted as soon as they were created. During this time, a lot of people couldn't really keep up with the new accounts, and a lot of them forgot about her existence altogether, almost like she was dead. This left her to often post updates on her remaining social media, which mainly consisted of her YouTube channel, where she would attempt to emulate the success she had found on TikTok with YouTube Shorts. Before her ban, she had actually used this channel for musical projects and as a content dump for other miscellaneous stuff. But after being kicked off TikTok, she would begin to post music more frequently, including classics like my intro song, Dance to Forget, and my personal favorite, the McDonald's rap.
I need a double cheeseburger and hold the lettuce. Don't be fun, son, no seeds on the bun. We be up in this drive-through, order for two. Got a craving for a number 9 like my shoe. Need some chicken up in here.
Any content that was uploaded here was just as characteristically unstable as we'd come to expect. But you may have noticed that someone is missing from many of these videos, her beloved Greg.
I'm old enough to give myself my own tongue bath anyhow.
She had posted one YouTube short that had to do with him, and she possibly posted more content onto deleted TikTok accounts, but her interests as a whole seemed to pivot back towards the more fictional and parasocial. It seems there was trouble in paradise. But if there was, we could always count on Cierra to share exactly what it was. And in August, while struggling to hold down a TikTok account, she posted another music video on YouTube addressing her relationship, seamlessly marrying the personal and creative in a way that only Cierra could do, with the title being I'm Not a Pedo.
I'm missing my boyfriend. He's always something, but he broke up with me ever since my friends told I'm a pea.
As far as I could find, nobody was making such claims publicly, so this was, again, a more personal matter to her. Yet, she cuts right to the chase and explains what's been happening, sharing that she's been missing her boyfriend dearly, but also saying that those close to her have compelled him to stop talking to her because of certain allegations.
But my friends told him to stay away from me, even though I don't look like a pig, that means pedophile.
Now, as I already said, at this point in time, there was no evidence that she had been doing anything inappropriate. Although it's not the wisest to be friends with 15-year-olds as a 24-year-old TikTok influencer, Cierra is definitely not the sharpest knife in the drawer. And at the time, it would have been hard to sell her as a malicious actor. Nevertheless, it is notable that by her own admission, it was her friends who told Greg to stop talking to her. And it's not hard to wonder exactly why they would do such a thing. It's a very bizarre self-report from someone who was under no suspicion whatsoever, at least publicly. And wait, what the hell did I just watch?
I'm not a pedophile. I was just being nice to the 15-year-old.
When Iciera walks into the room, Colleen Ballinger gulps, R. Kelly tenses up, and P. Diddy shivers. This is what everyone talks about when they talk about the response to end all responses.
I'm not a pedophile.
When I talk about lack of self-awareness, this is what I'm referring to. On one hand, there is just no way that she actually thought this was a good idea. On the other, she must have thought it was a good idea in some way because she uploaded the video, not only sharing these incriminating details with the world when many of them weren't even aware, but also in the form of a song that's attempting to address potentially sensitive details. I just have so many questions that I don't think I'll ever be able to answer, and audience members did as well. If this isn't satire, then what is it? I think we could stop the video here and be done for the day, but she had so much more to say. She was motivated to make sure that this wasn't the last thing she would be remembered for. And although there aren't any major plot developments in the next couple years, Cierra's content continues in a similar vein to the previous videos, although it did draw in less drama during this time.
Hi, Jack.
Hi.
It's been so long since I've seen you.
I miss you!
Her life as an internet nomad would persist for another few years, and although she wasn't entirely forgotten about, it did become very difficult for anyone to keep up with her, with many of her frequent followers having to go to her comment section to ask for the username of her newest account. Eventually, this cycle would be broken at the end of 2023 with the creation of an account that goes by the name of Mika Love Iciera.
I have all this power at my fingertips.
What's up?
It was unclear what exactly changed this time around, as TikTok's policies on ban evasion aren't exactly unambiguous. Nevertheless, she resumed posting with an expectation to stick around on this account.
So basically, a lot of people have been asking, how do I get my pinky toes to look like this? Well, basically, I'm pretty much born like that.
Her content itself hadn't really changed much. The videos tended to focus more on art and animation, but nevertheless, it was still very much her own. It was still surreal to watch, with videos never really feeling purposeful or authentic. For example, at one point, she used an AI-generated voice and masqueraded it as her sister, which maybe to her was a tech-savvy decision, but it's pretty glaringly obvious, especially when you don't put the script through a spelling and grammar checker.
Hi everyone, this is Cierra's sister speaking. I help Cierra run the account and whatnot, but I just wanted to pop in and say a quick thank you to the recent support she's been getting.
The truth was that Iciera hadn't changed one bit. In fact, the only thing that had changed was who she focused her attention on.
Alright class, today we're going to be welcoming a new student into our class. Everybody meet Jaquavius Thompson. Nah, Jit, ugly. Nah, shawty in love.
Since Greg had left Cierra's life, she had developed more traditionally parasocial relationships with public figures. Some familiar faces continued to be subject to her affection, like Jacksepticeye, but it seemed in the past couple years, Cierra had diversified her tastes. In this time, she had become enamored by franchises like Hell of a Boss, Mario, Bluey, Clifford the Big Red Dog, Ahmed the Dead Terrorist, and Lazy Town, the last of which Cierra seemed to settle on for a good amount of time. She grew increasingly infatuated by the character Robbie Rotten.
Hello everyone, I'm here to talk to you about Robbie Rotten from Lazy Town. For those who didn't grow up watching Lazy Town, you're missing out on one cool guy.
I assume most of you know who Robbie Rotten is, but for those who don't, he is the primary antagonist of Lazy Town and the enemy of Sportacus. He's obviously a children's character, he's not a particularly serious villain, and he's been the subject of a lot of memes in the past that you guys may remember, including the viral song, "We Are Number One."
Number one, hey.
I don't think I've actually said the words "we are number one" out loud since 2016 or something, but we're going back. Now at first, Cierra's posting about Lazy Town felt more fan-oriented, but it didn't really take long for her true intentions to reveal themselves. If Cierra can develop romantic feelings for puppets, there's certainly nothing stopping her from falling in love with Robbie Rotten. Upon first glance, you might even argue that it's an improvement on her previous suitors, but it began to feel a little more sinister when people came to the realization that our favorite furry TikToker likened herself to the character of Stephanie, even creating a couple of brief fan cams of Stephanie with Robbie Rotten, alongside a post where she announced that she is Stephanie's roommate.
I got a cousin. You like Robbie, right?
What? No, I mean, maybe, why did you ask that?
I saw you smelling at him.
Oh, you saw that.
I'm sure he will like you.
Like me? But he's kind of a jerk.
He may be a jerk. Hi, big hi.
Stephanie is canonically a child. Lazy Town is a show made for children, and despite announcing that her new account would be 18 plus a few months prior, Cierra announced that she will be creating a TV pilot for a show called Broken Friendship, where the main narrative concerned her and Robbie Rotten's relationship. This show would apparently feature Cierra, Robbie, and other voice actors, although when the various parts went live, the only voice that was present was Iciera.
It's been a while since me and Robbie talked. Ever since he lied about our friendship, I felt so hurt that I didn't want to talk to him anymore. But at the same time, I miss him.
This only becomes weirder a few months later when Cierra begins to cosplay as Stephanie, a move that can only be described as foreshadowing, but we'll return to that in a bit.
Why'd you throw them stones at you? How do I have you wrong? It's you living in your big glass house with a view. I thought you knew.
By now, Cierra was 27 years of age, and although everyone is entitled to have whatever interests they choose, it did feel kind of suspect trying to combine your self-admitted adult desires with TV shows primarily directed at kids. You contrast this behavior with someone like her ex-boyfriend, Greg, whose enthusiasm for puppets is completely detached from inserting himself into their life. He just really likes them, and it makes him happy. On the flip side, Cierra is only happy if she is written in as a character that is going to receive some sort of gratification. She needs to be the center of attention, and I think that's what underlines all of her behavior documented throughout these past few years.
I'm sorry if that came off abrupt. I'm autistic and also a
With Cierra managing to establish a large online presence once more on this new TikTok account, a creator by the name of Underflow published a video covering her backstory. Cierra saw this and posted a response stating that she had made a lot of mistakes that she is deeply sorry for. However, she also said that back then she was not herself. And since then, she's learned a lot. She never wants to repeat that behavior again. She just wants to make others happy and spread love to those who need it. And maybe that's all true, but it feels like we're forgetting something.
Not a pedophile. I was just being nice to the 15-year-old. I'm not a pedophile.
I don't think I've really emphasized how insane that video is, when, as far as we know, Cierra was privately confronted over allegations that she had spoken inappropriately to someone underage. Allegations that, by her own admission, put her relationship with the love of her life in jeopardy. Her response is to make a minute-long song pushing this information out into the public as if that would make anyone more comfortable with her being around them. To Cierra, everything is this sort of TV show to be written and performed, sometimes with a musical number. Cierra Green can be whoever she wishes, with no boundaries whatsoever, no matter what the consequences might be, despite the fact that such behavior might not be remotely acceptable in society. Cierra felt like someone disturbingly lost within the fantasies that she created, to the point where the reality of the world around her didn't even matter. Yet, by this point, there was no clear indication that anything that Cierra had said herself had even occurred. It was undeniable that she was weird and possessed some strange habits, but her lack of sophistication seemed to render her a rather unthreatening person. It had been a while, and maybe she was telling the truth, that she had actually changed. Yet, come the end of 2024, this image would be completely broken.
Hello everyone, my name is Luca and I'm a victim of Cierra.
Cierra's videos didn't stray far from the themes we've already touched on during her existence on this account, and outside of her past suspicious behavior, there was no indication that anything was amiss. You have Jacksepticeye appearing in Robbie Rotten's lair, Rick and Morty watching Jacksepticeye, and My Little Pony's Twilight Sparkle in Hell of a Boss. This was around the time that videos on her would begin to snowball as well, with creators covering her peculiar behavior and sordid past.
And like I said, sometimes she would duet these people that would make prayers and stuff, and she'd be like, oh, I pray for them to come back. And then sometimes she'd make entire videos acting like she's this person's boyfriend whenever they've already been trying to cut them off and blocking them on everything for years.
However, at the end of November 2024, Cierra hopped on TikTok to share the sad news that her mother had passed away.
Hi everyone. So I got news that my mom passed away last night, and she lived a good long life. I'm proud of her that she lived a good long life. Raising me and raising my sister. Life goes on. I'm gonna be proud for her and be brave for her as much as I can.
This was not the first time that Cierra had announced her mom's death. However, this one seemed more somber and authentic, paying a sincere tribute to the woman who raised her. In spite of the weight of such news, Cierra commits to her best for her every day, perhaps demonstrating some form of growth and understanding. The only question that remained was, what did Cierra's best look like?
I swear 16 was yesterday, but now I'm closer to 28.
1 week later, a new pinned post appears on Cierra Green's TikTok, allegedly from the former account manager. They claim that in light of recent allegations, they have locked Cierra out of the account. These allegations refer to her speaking inappropriately to minors, something which, now at the age of 27, looks even worse for someone like Cierra. If the first time this had supposedly happened hadn't taught her anything, then there must be some intent behind this. The admin states that they have checked the proof, and it seems reliable, and although they are still investigating it, they can 100% confirm that the messages were at least inappropriate in nature. They state that they won't be sharing any of the screenshots to protect those affected, but they are sharing this message here to raise awareness and ask people not to follow any new accounts operated by Cierra, as they may not be monitored. Although it's certainly believable behavior from a person who is capable of posting content like this,
I was just being nice to the 15-year-old. I'm not a pedophile.
It does raise a few questions. First of all, why does someone like Cierra have a TikTok account manager? Although there are a few explanations, the most plausible one here seems to be that it might have been to circumvent her previous bans. You could argue that this was still a form of ban evasion, but it seemed to have worked if that was the case. Now, regarding the content and allegations themselves, although it's fair to not share the identity of any of these people with the public, especially if they're underage, it seems a bit strange to not go into specifics and leave it mostly to the audience's imagination. Cierra has repeatedly claimed to be asexual, and although she may just be lying, to not share any details at all seems like it leaves more questions than answers. This is a person who was falsely reported to have died, and although I've never found the original source of these rumors, could this be just another strange trick from Cierra to grab attention? It certainly seems like a step up if it is, given that it's one that can ruin your reputation. I mean, faking pedophile allegations against yourself is definitely one way to get eyes on you. Now, Cierra would not make a sequel to her previous response to such allegations. There was no new song. Instead, she posted on her 4th YouTube account, Sierra Green Videos 4, uploading a masked singer edit of Sherlock Hound. In the comment section, someone would bring this up, asking what exactly had happened. But Cierra declines to comment, saying that it's a long story, but she has a new account called Jacksepticeye Fangirl. If this account had any activity, it was quickly shut down, and over the next few months, there were no further updates outside of other creators who couldn't help being reeled in by the insanity.
I mean, yeah, that's all we have. All of her comments were shut off after that, so we can't even communicate with each other. She hasn't showed up at all on any social media yet, and I guess I'll update you whenever we hear about her next.
Despite posting that the investigation was ongoing, the account posted no further updates, falling inactive for the new year, leaving the account and Cierra's fate shrouded in mystery. After further bans, Cierra would return once more with an account by the name of Ma the Raptor Fox. On this short-lived account, she would continue to upload content pledging her dedication to Robbie Rotten, with a parody account pretending to be Robbie Rotten even being set up to take the piss out of Cierra in light of the claims against her.
Cierra surprises me and makes me a custom hat.
That's really lovely on me. Robbie, you're too nice. You're too kind. I mean, the hat's supposed to be purple, but I don't got no purple paper, but I'm gonna redesign it and make it, differently.
Although records of comment sections and videos have largely been lost, a couple attempts by her to stream with her audience were captured, and the reception she received can't exactly be described as positive.
Is it I like talking to minors because you're a foul? Stop talking, you bad girl!
Okay. Jesus Christ.
After a pretty short stint with this account, at the start of June 2025, this account again was taken over by another person who shut it down, this time making a post that goes into a lot more detail about the allegations against her, which include supposedly shaming children, manipulating her 16-year-old boyfriend, engaging in erotic roleplay, sharing not safe for work stuff, pretty much everything explicit you can do with someone. This seems a lot more serious than anyone could have ever thought, and a couple of days later, an account by the name of Luca uploaded a video to YouTube documenting all of her violations against himself, his sister, and many others, accompanied with supplemental commentary.
We've both known her since we were 13, and she has done nothing but use us for her own personal needs.
Today, we are 16 years old. We will be here to address the numerous allegations and confirming most of them with actual evidence.
There is a litany of documentation on display, including DMs, audio recordings, videos, pretty much every conceivable piece of evidence that could be organized against her. Given how little subtlety Cierra appears to possess, it's almost shocking that she wasn't called out sooner.
She basically told me she could be my mom, and looking at it now, she used this mom role verse, make me be a doll to her. I had to do anything she wanted or else I was being a bad daughter, and that she helped raise me in a way, despite her depending on us and never treated our issues seriously.
After so many years, I had grown an emotional attachment towards her and began caring about her. Over time, she stopped caring about the mother and son aspect to our friendship, saying I reminded her of Robbie and that I could be a good boyfriend if she ever broke up with her current one. She even began referring to me as her boyfriend to other people and complimenting my physical appearance and voice. This was very new to me since I hadn't received attention like that before, so I didn't question it much.
The content itself covers her inappropriate behavior and role plays with minors, alongside her short-lived relationship with a 15/16-year-old, which she ended when she found out his age, which does make her seem good at first glance, but it was only after 5 days of complete insistence from those around her. Cierra apparently continued to obsess over this person, and they are reported to have ended their life recently.
I think it should also be stated that even now she still keeps photos of the unnamed victim and refuses to delete them, saying it's too hard to let go, which is disgusting considering it has been a year or more ever since the incident.
The video also reports on the generally poor treatment of those around her, including her pets, and the persistent pattern of behavior on all fronts, despite the repeated confrontation with others explaining the folly of her actions.
In this server, she spoke about Judith Barcy, I think that's how you say her name, I'm sorry, and her murder. This made multiple people uncomfortable. Since it was a sensitive topic, they all expressed their discomfort, and she in response started guilt-tripping everyone. She had found a TikTok where two cosplayers are cosplaying Robbie Rotten and Stephanie. She then proceeded to roleplay her finding Robbie cheating on her and began to use real photos from the show, or behind the scenes from the show, with the two actors saying that they had done gross things. We can see she is aware of what she's doing by calling out Robbie as a pedophile, yet when being told how weird this all was, she insisted it was fine because it was only roleplay.
Needless to say, this is not a person who has done a handful of bad things, realized it, learned their lesson, and not repeated it. Instead, this is a person who seems to be very much aware of the awful things that they're doing and continues to do them for their own satisfaction, only playing the victim when they're finally confronted.
They're gonna regret it.
What?
What? They're gonna regret it ever doing that.
What are you gonna do to them?
Nothing. I'm just saying they're gonna regret it. They're gonna come crawling right back to me.
What stands out to me about this video is just how actively malicious Cierra seems to be in her actions. We're gonna delve into the mentality behind it soon enough, but on the surface, she just seems to love controlling people. She loves people who don't stand up to her. This isn't merely delayed mental age. She is aware of her authority and is actively targeting a certain kind of person.
Cierra is known for talking to multiple minors, calling them her friends.
And they're over here, they're also telling me, oh, you shouldn't be hanging out with teenagers anyway. Like, I have one adult friend on Discord, and that's...
Luca's video also makes mention of another person called Nicholas Aguirre, who was, going off historical records, the one person who seemed to simp for Cierra, despite her regularly appearing disinterested in his advances.
Look, haters, if you don't like Cierra's content, then why follow her? Why follow her? Because if you haters don't like Cierra Green's content about her boyfriend, y'all can go yourselves.
Evidence is shared that he has also made disturbing advances onto underage individuals, with links to other pieces of evidence, although these seem to be removed now.
In conclusion, Cierra is a grown 29-year-old woman who shouldn't be pampered and babied just because she's autistic. She's aware of her behaviors due to everyone telling her how wrong she is, and even she herself has admitted that she knows she's in the wrong, but she still does not want to own up to her mistakes.
If there was any doubt before, there was very little doubt left now. This was a person who shouldn't be anywhere near the internet, and since that video, there has been radio silence from Cierra, who, for the time being, has realized her time is up. With all of that said, it wouldn't surprise me if she attempted a return in the future given her past record. These are the actions of a person who doesn't know when they're finished.
I don't recommend harassing or getting involved with her or anyone else included, especially if you're a minor. We share this to spread awareness, not for clout.
It's a rather depressing end to what could have been a much more lighthearted story, but it's one that needed to be told so her behavior could be brought to a halt. Unfortunately, sometimes the signs are right in front of us. There was always something up with Cierra Green.
Seriously? Ammonia is an illness. My mom died from a bad illness of ammonia.
It's a kind of strangeness that can reflect a lot of character traits, and it's kind of hard to draw a conclusion from a snapshot of the person. That's how TikTok operates. These are sub-minute videos. They're not designed to tell a story, and most people who encountered Cierra's uploads wouldn't even be following it. They would just see the surreal dancing, the obsessive commentary, the purposeless editing, and be entertained by that alone. In many cases, TikToks tell us nothing about a person whatsoever, and so maybe we shouldn't draw too many inferences from extreme eccentricity.
She's pretty tame in comparison to the majority of people that we cover on this channel, and seems to be truly trying to learn from her mistakes and improve. But she will continue to face problems on any social media platform she uses, due to the amount of unintentionally funny content that she produces.
Nevertheless, if you were were following the story, you would see a rather disturbing pattern of behavior, particularly towards those in her life.
Okay, babe, I got a question for you. Give me some attention.
She seemed to obsessively target people who at least seemed somewhat susceptible. She would then parasitically attach herself, spam them with content both publicly and privately until all of their empathy and energy was drained. It's not my place to speculate on how she treated them, as those people would probably rather leave that part of their life behind. But it wouldn't surprise me if she also harassed them in many of the ways we've witnessed elsewhere. Her obsession with puppets was kind of weird, but it made sense when she revealed her character. This was a person who wanted absolute control, and there's no better representation of a person easier to control than a literal puppet.
We've been together for a year. This guy, he hid his feelings from me.
I've never seen such a beautiful
because he didn't want me to find out that he was in love with me.
I'd love to see that
so
one more time.
I told him I had feelings for him, and he said he did the same thing. I wish he would have told me first instead of just hiding his feelings from me. Babe, what is wrong with you?
She treated each of her supposed brothers like puppets, scolding them when they didn't comply with her demands, expecting them to follow her clumsy sleight of hand and smile all the same. The problem is that Cierra's own lack of emotional intelligence rendered these ruses pretty fruitless, and even people who may struggle socially would inevitably wake up to her toxic traits. In light of this, her approach seemed to take a disturbing turn, at least partly resulting from the creation of her Discord account. The thing about Cierra is that, at least to me, she doesn't present as your typical creep. There's no strong evidence that she's sexually attracted to anyone other than Robbie Rotten and her many puppets. However, she was so desperate for indulgence that her own company couldn't bring, that she was always on the hunt for new victims. What she looked for in another person was for those who would tolerate her sick tendencies, enable these fantasies for her to live in, and act almost as a possession of hers. Once she had exhausted the route of autistic adults and attempting to fulfill this, she realized that the most tolerant people were those far younger than her, those who would look up to her, those who were more susceptible to her manipulation, who would make excuses for her. I'm sure she, and goons like Nicholas, would say that she has the mind of a child, but the evidence just doesn't support that. Although there's no doubt that she obviously has had some developmental issues, she doesn't exhibit behavior that entirely encompasses a regressed mind, and her cruelty towards all of these underage people in her circle is more than enough evidence of that. She would regularly hold her position as an adult over them. She spoke down to them, placed herself in a matriarchal position, offered the benefits of knowing an adult, while imposing her will and power over those people. This isn't someone who was too immature to really understand what they were doing. This is a person who was very much aware and disregarded the potential harm that it could have for the sake of her own benefit. You compare this to many of the brothers that came before her, and you see how stark it is. This is the difference between possessing juvenile tendencies and actually exploiting them.
I was just being nice to the 15-year-old. I'm not a pedophile.
It's kind of surreal to think that the subject of her infamous response video is likely no longer with us, and as much as I don't really feel comfortable speaking to the role she may have played in another person's death, it is a testament to her vindictiveness that she could inflict so much damage over such a limited interaction.
They're gonna regret it ever doing that.
What are you gonna do to them?
Nothing. I'm just saying they're gonna regret it. They're gonna come crawling right back to me.
I've covered a lot of messed up people on this channel, and I'm not going to pretend as if I'm some kind of authority figure. Ultimately, what I make is entertainment, okay? They're YouTube videos, I'm not the police. But there is no doubt that many of these people do deserve to be held accountable for their actions, just not by me. But in a lot of cases, you can see how someone went down a dark path and how there may even be a way back for them. In the case of someone like Cierra Green, she loves power, but she can only inflict it on those who don't have the power to say otherwise. That's a different type of disturbance, and it's probably the closest you can come to outright malevolence. It's the kind of thing that will lead to awful criminal behavior, and it seems that Cierra may have committed a few crimes as well. The victims have been in touch with law enforcement, but whether she'll actually be apprehended is a very different question. But it should highlight the seriousness of her actions nonetheless.
Haters in my life, say my name, got supporters in my life, change my ways, now I'm headed to the door, bang, 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 yo haters, say my name.
It's weird when you think of all the people that are covered online that this is the prototype of evil. Watching some of her videos, it's easy to forget who you're dealing with. Most of this video is funny, and that's what makes this contrast so horrifying, that this could be anyone. A lot of people thought this was the kind of person who wouldn't hide anything, but she was hiding far more than most, no matter how poorly she concealed it.
I mean, I understand. I mean, I made a few mistakes. I understand that, but like, come on, it's not that big of a deal.
One of the small details that really stood out to me was how freely she seemed to speak when she didn't realize she was being recorded. It definitely contrasts a lot with her more deliberate speech on TikTok, and it can make you wonder, was the entire persona a lie?
Ammonia is an illness. My mom died from a bad illness of ammonia. You cannot drink ammonia. It happens in the lungs, and she died from it. Get that through your head. Ammonia is not a drink. It's an illness. A lung disease.
Evil does not know an intelligence level. The higher profile cases of serial killers and other notorious criminals demonstrate many forms of high functioning, but evil people can also be really stupid, and we often don't hear about them because it's so common. If anything, intelligent evil is about not being found out, and our learning of someone is due to a blunder that a smarter person wouldn't have made. In the case of Cierra Green, she presented herself as so naive that nobody really deemed her as much of a threat, not realizing that sometimes those people are the most dangerous.
Roar! Roar! Hiss! Roar!
I'm done. No!
These are people whose character deficiencies are ingrained. They lack the self-awareness to have that reckoning, and without serious intervention, they will not want to change or grow. They will only want to return to that realm of power regardless of the cost. That's why, in some way, we will almost certainly see her return, because this is the closest to power that she has probably ever experienced. We don't know what that will look like. We may not even know it's her, but eventually, she will reveal herself through her motives, and the best anyone can do is shine a light on it. Iciera was never meant to be an influential figure in any community. She was meant to be someone who could hold down a perfectly unexceptional job and would spend her free time watching Has-Been Hotel, writing fanfics of herself with Robbie Rotten, and making out with puppets in dimly lit rooms, far away from the eye of civil society. But it's 2025. The internet has given the power to the user on the people they make famous, which presents its own cultural dilemma. Sometimes there's charm in the unlikely hero, who on paper may not have much going on for them except for their own self-belief, particularly when their content is so transcendental of anything we really understand. Yet, the threat of what we don't understand is that we don't really know what it means. It can be positive, but it can also be very, very negative. And you can only really look at the bigger picture once it's all happened.
Babe, quick question. Should Jeffrey sleep with me tonight? Or should he stay in his crib?
That was definitely the case for Cierra Green, a person whose sickness is easy to see with the power of hindsight, a creator whose pattern of behavior was accented through her disturbed and possessive videos, but was almost too hilariously inept in the moment to be taken seriously. But a clown who's committed a crime is still a criminal, and Cierra is no exception to this rule.
Okay, babe, I got a question for you. Give me some attention.
To her, all of those in her life were merely marionettes in her dollhouse of delusion, only able to serve her needs under her absolute control. Yet, her fantasies always ended in a tough dose of reality.
And I just hope everyone in this can finally close this chapter for good and stop giving her a platform. Permanently, this time.
With Cierra revealing that she was just a puppet to her own twisted desires. In any case, I've been Turkey Tom, thanks for watching, and until next time, leave me alone.
Times before, and it's just not that funny anymore.